Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Innerversity TV, Access the Expert. Today, we have with us Dr. Pamela Girali, and she is here to talk to us about her latest book, her journey of transformation, and it seems like we have a few things in common. I can't wait for her to share with you.
Yes,
Welcome to Innerversity TV, Dr. Pamela. I know you said you prefer to go by just Pamela, so we'll do that from here on out. And I can't wait to speak to you today about your journey. I have to tell you, Robin Helm is raving about your book. She's talking about it and how much she loves how you're talking about your story of transformation. I can't wait to talk to you about your new meditations that you've recorded. Hear the story of how you got started on your spiritual journey of transformation. And I love how you describe yourself, the architect of the human spirit, visionary, pioneer, some of the messages that you've received from the divine, and the author you are of your newest book, The Dance of the Essence, Ego in the Essence, right? And yeah, The Confessions of a Divine Diva. This is going to be so much fun. Thank you so much for being here today. Will you please take a moment to introduce yourself?
Yes, I am so delighted to be with you, Wendy. It's just, I know we have so much in common, and so that's going to be just amazing. But I am here right now to share this beautiful gift that I received called the Blueprint for the Human Spirit. And I share it in as many ways as I possibly can, but it is a far cry from where I began. My journey as a seeker, as someone who was raised in an ultra-conservative home and then found their way, found their truth to then embrace and share that with others. What a gift. And so I truly am delighted to be here.
Super. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, before the show, we got to talking a little bit, and we were talking about, like, how did you get started on this? For some people, this can be, I'm sure in here in Innerversity, we're among like-minded souls.
Yes.
But before I got started on this path, and it sounds like you as well, we both came from environments where this was taboo talk, and these were not things that were mentioned in the house. And going through this transition and even picking up this work in the beginning felt like it was dangerous in a way. And, we were just waiting to be condemned. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about those, parallel universes that we might have walked in for a while there. Cause like you, I was raised in a super religious, environment, very fundamental Christian. Women didn't have a voice. You didn't talk about anything that was outside the Bible. And there were just some really strange, now looking back on it, kind of strange and limiting behaviors that really kept me stuck in some patterns that were really preventing me from being fearless in life. And there was a lot of, I would say now looking back at it, almost neurotic behavior. So yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Before we get started, I just want to pop this in here and say hello. Vicky's here joining us in the audience. So if she has any questions or anyone else listening in today, we'd love to hear from you. Okay, how about if we get started? Can you please take me back to, there's so much for us to talk about, but can you take me back to the beginning? Because I am so fascinated and curious about where you came from, like who you were before you got on this journey. And so I can get an understanding of the lens that you're looking through some of this work and how some of it's been received.
Right. Oh, I would be delighted to share. And I was raised in an ultra-conservative home in a fundamental church in a very small town in northwestern Pennsylvania. And I lived with what I call the unholy trinity of guilt, shame, and fear. And there were so many thou shalt nots that it was impossible for me to live in a manner that I thought I would be good enough to make it inside the pearly gates, because nobody could be that good, could be that holy. And I tried, but I kind of left that all behind. But I mean, I wasn't allowed to wear slacks because that was men's apparel. I had to wear long white stockings and full shoes, and to this day, I can't figure out what is so wrong about toe cleavage. But we.
Sorry. That is amazing.
But, we wore dresses. I'm one of 4 girls and I have a younger brother, and we played tackle football in dresses because it was immodest to wear slacks. We weren't allowed to wear shorts. But, and I'm sure the boys enjoyed that because they didn't know whether they wanted us on their team because we were so fast and so good, or whether they wanted to tackle us, so.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we weren't allowed to play co-ed games. So you must have had your parents must have been a little bit anti-fundamentalist, a little.
Oh, gosh.
We weren't allowed to co-ed anything.
Oh, well, we played outside. We did not have TV. So I was raised without exposure. I mean, I was a teenager when Vietnam was going on. I never saw any of the footage ever. So I was just in this little bubble, but it was safe and it was fine. That's all I knew. But I left when I was 17, went to college and became a nurse, and then pursued a master's in public health. I worked for a nurse just a short period of time, but then I worked for a comprehensive cancer center, and I worked for the American Cancer Society. I was the first education director for the Oncology Nursing Society. I was a national consultant for the American
Wow, congratulations.
And my last position, where I earned money thus far, was with the Prevent Blindness America. I was the national program director. So I did all kinds of amazing things. And still, there was this fear because it was like, am I good enough? Am I doing enough? I was told I was an unworthy sinner for so many years. And I truly did push that aside to just work and enjoy life. But there was always this underlying fear. Well, when I worked for Prevent Blindness America, they allowed me to go to the Center for Creative Leadership in Greensboro, North Carolina. Have you ever been there or heard about it?
I haven't, but I'm fascinated because, and I'll tell you why. What I'm most curious about it, Pamela, is when I was young, being female, I was told that women weren't to lead. And I can remember at my grandparents' house, my grandparents were playing the 700 Club on the TV once, and I stepped in front of the TV in front of the family, and I started reciting some of the program monologue that they would play before every show, like the introductions and things. And my grandmother, this woman did not ever make an abrupt move. She leapt from her chair and put her hand over my mouth and dragged me into a side room and said, "Don't you ever do that again. That is not a woman's place." And she scolded me, and I wasn't allowed to sit and watch TV with them when they had company from church over anymore, because I had embarrassed my grandmother that I had stepped in front of a room full of people. This was a very intimate group. It was company that my grandparents had to their home in the living room. It wasn't like I jumped in front of, a commencement speech at college and interrupted. It was a family group. I was very young, very young. I think I might have been barely school age or just in school. And she said to me, "Don't you ever do that. Women don't lead. That's not your place." I can't even remember all the messages, but I completely lost my voice that day. It was so shattering to me. I cannot ever remember being punished publicly like that ever and taken so much of a hit than I did at that moment. So to hear that you went from your family situation to then lead these national organizations, that would be a huge identity shift for me.
Mhm.
And I don't even know how I can't see the transition from one to the other. That's a huge bridge for me to cross in my mind, to hear that you were able to
To
accomplish
do
that.
that,
So
yes.
yeah, lead me, master.
Well, my mother always said that we should get an education in case we had to support ourselves someday.
Whoa, that is huge, because I was told by my grandfather that it was a waste of money for women to go to school because
Yes.
we had a place in the house and that we
Mhm.
were being prepared to support who would become the man of the house. So that is also, wow, your mother must have been a real
She
revolutionary.
she was very bright. She didn't go to college because at that time she was Catholic and she converted.
Ah,
But
okay.
she had a scholarship, but thought they would force her to become a nun. And so she didn't accept it. And so she did not go to college, but she kind of lived through vicariously through me and my career. But I mean, what a shift. And so obviously, I wasn't limited in that way, but certainly there are no women on the platform other than to maybe sing a special. And we used to sing, my three sisters and I used to sing 4-part harmony. We could have been the Pointer Sisters at the church. And we, I mean, but we played, music was a big part of our lives.
Yeah,
And
right. So women could entertain, but you couldn't lead,
right.
right?
But the whole little girls are to be seen and not heard,
Uh,
big, big
mhm.
part of our lives. So it took a lot for me to get past that. Plus, my older sister was very outgoing and very social. And I was, believe it or not, introverted and shy and insecure. And so I had to get over that. And when I went away to college, I realized that anything that I set my mind to, I could do. If I really wanted and tried hard, I could do it. And so that's what I did.
I
And
love it.
so my career blossomed. I had all these amazing leadership opportunities. But when I went to the Center for Creative Leadership, I was probably, I don't know, 37 or something. I mean, it was the late 30s.
Mhm.
And I had just been married for the second time. And so getting divorced was a huge
Oh my
thing.
gosh, there's another revolutionary
I never
step.
told my parents. I never told them. I got divorced, but I never told them. So,
Wow.
but I had a chance to go to the Center for Creative Leadership. I did visioning for the first time and journaling. And we worked with change partners in a group. We did nature walks. We had an actor working with us, a social worker and kind of a mentor. It was amazing. It was the moment when my life took a turn and I went down a whole new path because in the process, we had to do self-assessments. We had to evaluate ourselves and our peers, our supervisor, family, and friends filled out these questionnaires. And it was the first time I ever looked inside. I had never done that because I was afraid. I didn't want to go there. I was never good enough.
Sure.
But I learned some things I didn't like about myself. I was a bulldozer in the workplace. I pushed myself and I pushed everybody else. And so I'm sure I was not very easy to work with. And after that process, after, opening my eyes, I realized that there were some changes that I wanted to make. So I did. But I also realized that my work and my job was no longer compatible with my new vision. So I quit. I walked away from my career.
Oh, wait. All right. So let me stop you there, because this sounds like you had to take some really bold, fearless actions. And there's a lot of stories going on beneath the surface here. And I am so riveted by what you're saying in our conversation that I'm completely ignoring all these questions coming up from the audience.
Okay,
so
sure.
please, I want to just take a second and honor them because they're coming in here. I gotta slide my glasses on for a second. So we have some good mornings. Oh, someone else that said the toe cleavage made them laugh too. Huge career. Here's what I'm gonna pop on the screen. Wow, that must have been a mind-blowing moving from complete isolation to totally in the world.
Yes.
Yeah, and then seeing it, fantastic for sure. Absolutely.
Yes. I mean, I was in this tiny town. There were no Blacks. There were no Jewish people. There were, my mother was probably the most ethnic. She was half Portuguese.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is quite a culture shock. So yeah, Vicky says, yes, the unworthy, I am doing a good enough just to make sure we give our greatness away to toxic belief. Absolutely. Someone says you've come a long way, baby. Whoa. Fascinating conversation. Just amazing. All the beliefs you've had to break through. Love this. You never would have gotten anywhere if you hadn't been a bulldozer. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, there are times I've had to use that tactic too. Love me or hate me. It does move. It does move the world. And wow, what incredible discernment from Vicky. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you everyone for your comments. I am not trying to be dismissive. We just only have Pamela for an hour and there is a lot happening here. So, okay. So this is when you had your magic moment of I can't take this anymore. And now you're moving into your what's next. Okay. So here we are. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, certainly when you quit your job, I mean, that's huge. And fortunately, I was just married to a successful man. I didn't have to worry about paying the bills. So I had the luxury of doing that. But I was lost because I identified with my position and my career. I worked so hard and had so many responsibilities that I didn't have much other time for friends and whatever. So I lost not only my income, but my identity and my sense of accomplishment and self-worth. So that was huge to be able to do that. And I truly am blessed. And, to this day, I am so grateful that I found my amazing husband because it was divine intervention that I would find him so that I could be free to do what I do. In fact, one day after I discovered, why I'm here, and that is to share the blueprint for the human spirit with the world, I said to him, well, do you know why you're here? And to be honest, I didn't expect much because he's retired and he hits a little white ball around. And so I says, well, you know why you're here? He said, yes. I'm here to support you so you can achieve your higher purpose.
Wow. What a gift of a man.
What an amazing man. Everyone asked me if he has a brother. I'm sorry, he doesn't. But
darn. Well, that would be the only time to advocate for human genome cloning, right? Is when you find one like him. He sounds like a gem.
Absolutely. And so I have had he's my number one fan. When I wrote and performed a one-woman show for a couple of years called Confessions of a Spiritually Promiscuous Woman, which is about my journey. And it's actually on my website, drpamelagerali.com. And on the About page at the very bottom, there is a link to a show that I did in Unity of Venice. But you have to kind of, my section starts about minute 12. So we have to
super. Okay.
Move forward. But if you want to hear about my story and see pictures of me when I was a little girl with long white stockings and long hair and stuff like that, you'll see it. And you'll see my journey of how I went from being a victim of religious abuse, which is what that was when we were forced to fear God because of what we were taught. That is religious abuse. And the first time I heard that, I thought, oh my God, I cried. Because that they made me fear God. It pushed me away from anything spiritual. I had nothing spiritual in my life at all until that leadership conference. It was like 20 years.
Wow, that's amazing. If anyone happens to be listening and they're able to pop Dr. Pamela Girali's website in the comments, that would be super. Just, I don't want to miss it in the show roll. But if somebody could pop that up there, and maybe just note that minute 12 is where the juicy stuff really is in there. That's where she's hoping we could go. Yeah, that would be super. Thank you if anyone is able to do that. So thank you. And we've got some comments here. Love the photos on the website. Someone put it in the comments. Thank you. The website's up. Your website's up in the comments. Fantastic. Okay. And saying what a prince your husband is, which is super. And yes, to speak to the religious abuse part of the programming of the fearing of God, the condemnation, the you're going to hell. There's absolutely nothing you can do right. Just being a human alone is sinning enough. That is such a challenge. And, I threw a little bit of a controversial post up on Facebook today that was like, oh my God, the sky is falling. It's nothing but doom and gloom here. And I cannot believe the negativity, and people that never comment on my Facebook post are absolutely writing dissertation level comments on the post today about, the fear and all the anxiety. And I really hope that people, and I'm not trying to deny that there is absolute suffering going on in this world, especially, with the wars, and we're just coming out of COVID and everything else. But who I was really trying to speak to was in that post was the people that all they are ever hearing about is the negativity, and that there is no hope, and there's everything to fear, and opportunities are gone, and there's no sense of spirit anymore, and we're just all doomed. Like, these are the end days. And for me, I'm just not buying it.
No.
I think we all have some personal responsibility, and we do have a way to change this. And we cannot cover our eyes and pretend it doesn't exist, but we can all take some self-responsibility in protecting what's in our immediate controllable vicinity, and then taking responsibility for emanating out messages of hope, opportunity, transformation. And where I'm going with this is, I'd love to hear about your blueprint for the human spirit. I come from a manufacturing background and engineering. And so when I hear things like blueprint pathways, I'm always curious, because if somebody's done it before me, I don't feel like it's necessary for me not to try to use their GPS, and maybe I'll come at it with my own spirit and discernment. But if someone's gone before me and they've had success, I want to hear about it.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear about this blueprint of the human spirit that you received, and what the transformation looked like for you. And I also then want to share with you all the love that Robin Helm gave for your work, that she sent me in a private Facebook message. And I want to ask you some specific questions about some of the specifics of what she loves about your book with you.
Sure.
So here we are, the blueprint of the human spirit. Thank you.
Yes. Well, after I made a shift in my life, I decided that I became, first of all, a spiritual junkie, a seeker. And I read every book I could get my hands on. I went to every workshop, listened to every master, past and present, trying to find my way. And I just was fearful, again, because of how I was raised. I was afraid that I would be led down the wrong path. But I still searched and opened my heart and mind. And eventually I was awakened in the middle of the morning, like at 3:30 in the morning. For some reason, the skies are clear, the veil is thin, and information flows in about that time. And for 6 months, 3 to 4 days a week, I received divine downloads. I'd lay in bed, and for an hour and a half, and all this information would flow in. And it was interesting how it started to evolve in harmony with my own personal growth and understanding. And eventually, it started with a simple mind, body, spirit triangle. So it came with sacred geometry. And I didn't even know what that was. But it also came in the form of a chart. And that appealed to my scientific, logical, rational mind. But so I had this beautiful matrix, the blueprint for the human spirit. It now has 5 dimensions: the physical, mental, emotional, intuitive, and spiritual, and 5 fields of existence: the energetic, personal, social, global, and eternal. And each one of those boxes just convey exactly what I've learned and how I have shifted. So it evolved just one idea at a time into this beautiful, cohesive, coherent guide for conscious, compassionate living. And if you want to read about it, on my website, on the homepage, scroll down a little bit and you can get a free booklet about the blueprint for the human spirit and how it evolved. It is amazing. I can't hear you.
Oh dear, I'm sorry. I'm not sure what happened there. Thank you. I
Yes.
just said thank you. I can't wait to go to the website and find that. I will definitely go there and look for that. And that again is on your same website that we've posted
Yes.
earlier in the comments here. So thank you for
Yes.
that. And Vicky is also saying that she can remember the fear of being led astray. I also remember that so vividly. I had so much angst. I would get sick to my stomach, and sometimes I would want to have these conversations with people because I was super curious. I love to learn, and I love digging into like ancient wisdom and all of this. But there were times like I would even get like hives on my skin out of nowhere because I was so nervous from all the programming from when I was young. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to hell. Like, my family's never going to talk to me again. My grandmother's now probably rolling in her grave. I'll never be invited back to church again. It was real crazy making. So I can totally relate. It sounds like Vicky can too. And A Guide for Conscious Compassionate Living. Fantastic. Super.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So that's so are there visuals and things that
Yes.
also came to you?
Oh yes, because I
Wild.
saw the geometry evolve from a simple triangle into more like a tetrahedron, and then it had a center point, and that kind of grew and grew and grew, and so it's like the Merkaba or something like that. It just came to me, So,
Fascinating.
but yes, and it is so amazing how something like that can change your life. Because I mean, but still, I was in fear. And all I wanted was for somebody that was a well-known person, like a Wayne Dyer, who was, with us at that time, or a Deepak Chopra, or someone to say, yes, that's great, that's good, And I even had a gal test it with kinesiology up against the map of consciousness, and it rated really high, so I'm like, oh wow, that appealed to my ego, of course.
Yeah.
But there was a point where
I remember going through this with Vicky too, and I would ask her, I'm like, does this seem legit? I would run things by her, or I'd send her stuff, and I'd be like, does this feel legit? Does this seem legit? Like, I totally remember going through this. Yeah, it was like,
yes. So
just seeking some kind of validation. Will someone please tell me if I'm crazy and coming completely derailed? Do I need to record this, or do I need to be committed? Like, which end of the spectrum is this on? I get it.
Exactly. So, there was one day I had read The Secret, so I'm manifesting things right and left. And I thought, well, I'm going to manifest a guru for myself, and it's like, okay, I got my journal out and I write, a guru is coming into my life now, and then this voice said, well, what am I, chopped liver? And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't need somebody to tell me this is right. I had my own inner guru. It was divine. And so I let that go, and I trusted it, and I shared it. And, but it was still an interesting intellectual exercise until I had a meditation. And in this meditation, I was outside, and I'll be honest, I'm not good at meditating. You can tell I'm very energized, and I move around a lot, and but I went off into Never Never Land, and
Okay, so we have to talk about that. First,
Yeah.
I've got a question here in the
Okay.
audience. We have to get it answered.
Yes.
What did the geometry
Sacred
play
geometry.
in the shift? How did that play a role in your shift? Sorry, I could have put my glasses down, then I'd
Oh, it's
actually be able
okay.
to see here.
Well, I think, words appeal to the left brain, so to speak, but
Okay.
images and photography and nature and music and art all appeals to that other side of us that is creative. And certainly we blend those together. So it complemented and gave shape, so to speak, to the words, to the ideas that were
Okay.
flowing in. So, but in this meditation,
Well, okay. The meditation, I know
yeah,
you're going to go there, and I really need to hear about this. But there is something so interesting about your specific methodology for meditation that I want to make sure that we just don't skim over it, because to me, meditation is one of those words that is so watered down now. It's kind of like the word narcissist, the word love. Like everybody has different definitions, everybody meditates different levels. Like I want to be sure that we communicate to the audience your specific methodology, and I want to hear about the significance of the number of days. I want to hear about these messages you received. And I also see you were shifting energy that shifted your consciousness, or in the reverse, your consciousness shifted your energy. Yeah, interesting. And I hear your girlfriend. Contemplation is easier than meditation.
yes,
Okay, so
yes.
could you just, for someone who is now getting a little skeptical about meditation, because you hear about it so many different people now, right? Like
Right.
I hear people that are like hardcore army sergeants talking about meditation, and I hear the fluffiest hippie flower girl like gurus dancing on the beach in Hawaii meditation. So there's a huge spectrum. But I am most curious about the meditation that comes with a message, and a message for taking action. That's like that. I have a huge amount of curiosity about that. And I know from what I've heard from Robin that that's what it looked like for you. And could you speak to that? Because I am so wildly fascinated and curious about that.
Mhm. Well, like I said, I'm not good at meditating because I'm hyper. However, I do go to my sacred space and I often light a candle just because it is a focus of intention.
Okay.
And I believe we need to focus our intention. And I sit in the silence and my mind will go, but I just will begin by saying thank you. And thank you is one feeling that brings me quickly into when I feel a connection with God and all that is. When I say thank you, I mean, I can feel it right now because I get goosebumps. And I just say thank you. And I think of all the things I'm grateful for. And I smile. And when you smile, your inner chemistry changes. All those stress hormones go down, all the feel good hormones come up. And the same thing with saying thank you. And the same thing with knowing you're in partnership with somebody. So it's like, I'm here, you're here, kind of a thing. So that oxytocin, when we're together, comes into play. So I just start feeling good. And sometimes I can sit there quietly and then I just receive ideas and whatever. And sometimes I just stay there for a few minutes. But every now and then something magical happens. Like this one particular time, I'll talk about my book. That was a whole other thing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
but this one particular moment where I sat on my lanai and in an hour and a half, I was out like a light. I experienced 15 past lives, a dramatic event in 15 past lives. It was mind-blowing. And I came in and wrote a couple lines about it, and realized when I wrote it down, I thought, oh, this is interesting, because after spending a whole day writing my experiences down and looking at it and analyzing it, there were 15 primary boxes in my matrix at that time, and there was one person, one past life that reflected the essence of each of those boxes. And some of them were victims, and some of them tried hard and failed, and some of them got it, and there were children and men and women, and from all walks of life, from as ancient times like Mayan to more early 1900s. But each one of them represented a core shift in consciousness, and each one reflected an aspect of my life today. So, I felt them so deeply. I believe they are past lives, but they don't have to be. They're archetypes too,
Okay.
You can learn from those. But from that moment on, the blueprint was no longer just an interesting intellectual exercise. It came to life. I embodied it because I experienced it. And certainly, in order for us to make a shift in our life, we have to have life-changing experiences. And certainly that's what happened with my book, The Dance of Ego and Essence, Confessions of a Divine Diva. You want to talk about it now?
I do, because Robin is raving about this book. And when she sent me this really lengthy voice message on Facebook, and I could just tell that Robin's usually like super operations oriented, and the messages I get from her are like, like this, and this was so passionate, this message that I got from her. And hearing her voice, I had a contractor doing some work in my house, and I played it over my computer, and the person said, wow, that woman has a really beautiful voice. And I said, she really cares about what she's telling me about. And it came right through the recording. So she was telling me so many magical things about it. And if you don't mention them, I will be sure to mention them.
Okay.
But I'd love to hear about your perspective.
Yes.
And, I have a question for you before we go there. Do you feel like that experience that you had when you came back to consciousness from viewing these 15 lives and past lives and kind of orienting yourself back to the here and now, do you feel like after you had that experience that you were somehow more human when you arrived back in your awareness of where you actually were in reality?
Mm-hmm. Well, it was what I would call a spiritually transformative experience. People talk about near-death experiences changing their lives. Mm-hmm. Near-death experiences are one type of spiritually transforming experiences. And so this was one where I was totally, to this day, when I talk about it, specific ones, tears, it was such a powerful thing. It affected me so deeply. And I am going to be talking about that tomorrow evening at 8:00 on the Co-Creators Convergence on Facebook at 8:00. So if anybody wants to hear about those 15 people, and then there was another one that occurred after that too. It's a powerful, amazing story. But so yes, experiences like this change your life. And my life was also changed when I engaged in this 40-day experience that resulted in my book, The Dance of Ego and Essence. I had been sick. I had viral thyroiditis, and I had to take medications to protect my heart and to lower my thyroid hormones temporarily until I healed from that. And after about 6 months, so for someone who is very hyper and energetic, it's not easy to be down, but I was down. And finally, when I felt better, I said to the higher powers that be, what would you like me to work on now? where would you like me to begin? Because I had to put all my work aside. And I was guided to get up early, go to my office, and write confessions. And I thought, okay, maybe I can do that 21 days. Okay, 30 days, 40 days. So I researched 40. What does 40 mean? Well, 40 means rebirth. And there are a lot of stories in the Bible about 40 days, 40 years, 40 weeks, 40. Jesus spent, in fact, we begin Lent today, and the 40 days that Jesus was in the garden, the 40 days of the flood, and certainly 40 weeks of gestation. It's all about rebirth. So I thought, okay, I haven't done any work for quite a while, but I will do this. And I sat down in my office, lit a candle, sat there for a few minutes, and a word came to me, discipline. And I thought, oh no, discipline? Are you kidding me? I hate discipline because discipline was something that, as a child, I was disciplined very harshly.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother used to stand me in the corner. Well, when you're hyperactive, standing in the corner is torture. And my dad, he was a little more harsh with his discipline. But then I looked over at my desk. My desk sits in the corner. Now I can look out the window and see these beautiful trees and cypress trees and flowers and things. But here I was sitting in the corner. I thought, am I still, disciplining myself? But what I realized, I picked up my journal and I wrote, that was my first confession, discipline, and how I just hate people telling me what to do. But I wrote my story. It flowed out of me for an hour, just like it just emerged. And in the end, I realized that discipline, when we internalize it, becomes self-discipline. And we all have to be self-disciplined so that we can say no to some things, so we can say yes to something else and to our heart's desires. And then discipline is transformed into direction. And how perfect is that? And the day ended with this beautiful meditation, or this beautiful affirmation. And then I also received a meditation that, like this affirming meditation that was so perfect.
Beautiful.
And I transcribed that, and I just recently have recorded them with a gifted artist here in Naples, Florida, a musician, Stu Shelton. And so they're going to be coming out very soon. But I mean, so that was day one. And I thought, wow, so day two, I sat down a couple minutes, scattered. I'm like, and every day a new word, and it was like a punishing God, and then prayer, intercessory prayer, and how that becomes being in the presence, and how fear becomes peace. I mean, like every day for 40 days, I received a word, and I had a chance to just let go of so much more stuff and see exactly what I had learned and how I had grown is in the process of the blueprint guiding my life. And I thought, what a gift. In the process, I also shared some of my daily writings with friends, and they says, oh my gosh, you made me think, and you have to share this. And I thought, do I really have to do that? Do I have to bare my soul to the world? Because this is like radical honesty. This is radical honesty. But I did. And
I love it.
Yes, go ahead.
It's been a huge gift. Will you just mention, Robin went through a whole list of, the word went from this, and then it went to this, and it went from this. And I have notes here from her, but I would love for you to share maybe what are your top 3 or 5 transformation words of the words you received, and then what the end moral of the story was, if you will.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, one was about perfectionism.
Okay.
Because I had to be perfect. We were told if we didn't work perfect, we wouldn't make it inside the pearly gates. And then it was almost like how when we can see ourselves, see the essence of our being, and know that what we were never told about our original divinity. We were told that we were tainted by original sin, and nobody ever said anything about our original divinity. But we were told we are made in the image and likeness of God.
Super. Okay, so that's
wow.
one. Do you have some others that are really powerful for you to share? That's fantastic. And you're right. I never heard that message. You know, the only time I ever heard that message was at someone's funeral.
Yes. Yes. So, I mean, certainly we go from controlling to allowing, and we have a tendency, we want to control things. We want everything to go our way. We have a set idea of how things should be, what we want, how we avoid suffering, pain, or whatever. So we want to control. And I was always very controlling. I like to be in charge. You know, my mother used to call me Sarge. And but we learn how to allow. We take a step back. And instead of using our ego effort to make things happen, we envision the highest good. We bring our intentions in alignment with that. We allow what is. We learn how to go with the flow instead of swimming upstream. And I mean, what a difference. It becomes easy and effortless then, you know, instead of it being a fight or a struggle, instead of there being suffering, you know, we go with the flow. I mean, what a shift. I mean, what a gift.
Absolutely, right.
And we can learn how to do that, you know. So there's just so many of them. And in my book, I do share my stories. I mean, as I was writing, one of them had to do with innocence from, let's see if I can find which one it was. I'm looking at my list here, from guilty to blameless and whatever. But I remember I wrote in my journal as I was going through this process about something that happened to me in the first grade. I never, ever told a soul. I was 5 years old, so I was very young, and we had the boys' bathroom, the girls' bathroom on either side of a drinking fountain. And I was getting a drink, and one of the boys who was older, because he had failed a grade and he was back there, so he's probably 2 years older than me. He opened the boys' door, bathroom door, and he exposed himself to me. And I was mortified. By then, you know, I had heard about a few things at church. I was just 5, but we had been going to church for a couple years. And so I said to him, "You're a devil." That was the worst word I knew. And he said, "Oh, but you're an angel." And I'm like,
but I can imagine how much I can imagine how much damage that could have done to you. And to someone listening to that, they might think that it sounds absurd and so petty and minor. But I can remember, oh my gosh, like
mortified.
Even more, right? And then it's your fault, and because then you keep envisioning it. Now you're possessed, and you're in so much trouble because, you know, you probably provoked him to do it in some way. And I could just imagine, I know it's probably listeners are looking at this and going, oh my God, this is so ridiculous. You're so overreacting. But if you've come from this environment, you can appreciate the programming and the environment and the constant messages that you're receiving, especially as a girl. Provoking a boy to expose himself to you. You must have done something, right? You pulled up your skirt, you made some gesture at him, like, because that's what you would have been told. It had to be your fault. And now that you have that vision burned into your eyes, you almost lost your virginity that day, probably.
Yes.
And your
My
soul, like,
innocence.
that's what you lost, right? Like, to you, now you're corrupt. So you walked around with that now.
Yes.
Because I understand completely, Pamela, because I was cut from the same cloth. And oh yeah, while we're here, I
So,
just want to pop up a couple of these other questions.
yes,
Is it okay to, okay,
absolutely.
super.
Absolutely.
So Vicky is riveted by this conversation. It speaks such deep truths. And from flawed to innocent, that
Innocent.
was one of the takeaways
Yes.
from your book.
Yes.
And I am mortified just hearing that, how traumatizing, right? It seems so silly maybe to adults looking back, but as kids, you're so easily influenced by that. And I also want to mention that one of the ones that really jumped out to Robin was about being scattered and woundings. Do you have something about woundings in the book? I haven't had the privilege and the honor of reading it yet, but that was one of the things that she mentioned that really stood out to her.
Well, certainly scattered was a big issue for me because when you're a creative person, uh, the sky's the limit. And so you have ideas always flowing in. And it's hard to stay focused enough on one thing before new ideas start popping in.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was like that. He was very creative. And so I too struggle with the fact that, because once you communicate to someone about an idea or write down the basics, it's kind of like out there, it's done kind of thing. It's like, and then you have to follow through. And I prefer not to do all the maintenance. I prefer to do the creativity and to bring things to light and whatever. But so scattered can become focused when we use our intention, when we envision the end result and stay with it and just do it. So there's a way. And my father did try to do some of that, and he had a word called, instead of perseverance, he called it stickability.
I'm so grateful that you brought this up, because this has been something that I've really been struggling with lately. There have been so many opportunities that have seemed like such beautiful opportunities that are coming my way, offers to do projects and collaborations and partnerships and all these things. And I read over the ideas and they are so beautiful and they could make such a change in the world. And I have had to work so hard to keep my head down and say, no, thank you, and say it in a loving and blessing way, because these are things that I truly believe in, and I can see the opportunity and the magnificence and the vision, and I can feel it, and they look beautiful, and I know that they can be successful. But I have such a directive that I am working off of. And I pray sometimes, and I'm like, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. I don't want them to take it personally. I don't want them to think I don't believe in them. It's none of those things. It's just that the discipline of focus is such a difficult thing that it took me so long to break through to get to this place that I was able to put the blinders on and start something and finish it through to the end without getting derailed or excited and jumping into something else and leaving a million things undone, or, having this, like, I call it creative whiplash, because I can get super hyper focused on something and go so excited. And then I really have to work hard to pull myself back in and say, no, you committed to this, stay on the path, stickability. I love that your dad mentioned that. And
Yes.
Kathy Mason's here with us. I just want to acknowledge Kathy. Focus is the key to the success. Thank you, Wendi Schenkel. Thank you so much for being here, Kathy.
Yes.
And
Kathy I've been working with her, and she's helped me quite a bit. So I greatly appreciate her. She's amazing.
She is a great person. I really enjoy the time that I get to talk with her. So Yeah, Kathy, thank you for being
Thank
here.
you, Kathy.
And you've got that right, divine angel with skin. Super. So we've got about 6 minutes left before we get to the hour. I would love for you to share anything else here.
Yes.
And then before we go, I had an opportunity to hear a little sliver of some of the work that you mentioned earlier in the show, the meditations that you recorded with beautiful music. I'm hoping that we'll have some time at the end for our viewers and listeners to get a taste of the angelic sounds that come through in that meditation. So before we do that, back to the conversation. Sorry,
Yes.
I might have caused you to become derailed because I went off on a little tangent there. Sorry,
That's
Pamela.
okay. One of the biggest things I want to say is that the Blueprints gift taught me and brought me to a sense of oneness. And I believe that all the fears that we face are based on the belief in duality. And as soon as we understand that we are one with God, that we are one with all creation, that we are one with each other, that we are not separate beings, even though we may look like we are separate, but we are all connected, then fear can disappear because we lose our fear of death. We lose our fear of failure. We lose our fear of abandonment. We lose our fear of being suppressed and told what we can't do. We lose our fear of being unworthy. There are so many fears. And so the gift that the Blueprint has given to me and what I wrote in this book, The Dance of Ego and Essence, shows how we shift out of fear and how we can live more joyfully. And certainly the Dance of Ego and Essence is pure joy, although it was a deep soul cleanse. And I would encourage everybody to buy their own copy of this book. It's online, but there is a companion journal called Embrace Your Divine Inner Diva. And it's a holistic process because if we just read, it appeals to the left brain of us. It doesn't necessarily touch us as deeply as if we engage in our own process. And there are kind of dance exercises, and the meditations are in here as well. And the meditations were really powerful because they complemented each chapter, each day's experience. And I mentioned that I had a chance to record the meditations with a very gifted artist, Stu Shelton. And, but anyways, I know what a gift the Blueprint is and how this experience, this 40-day rebirthing experience can change us. In fact, today is a perfect day to start because it's Lent. Yes. And Lent is 40 days. And certainly there are affirmations that are a part of this process that can just uplift us in such a way that we can't even imagine. But I am so thrilled to share.
Yeah, thank you so much. So everyone, grab your copy of the book. The links are in the comments. Thank you so much to whoever the Facebook user was that posted that for us. So we have your book. We have the journal that goes along with it. And I think now this is a great time as we close out the show. Thank you so much, Pamela, for being here today with us. How about if we run your meditation and I will let it go until we have to close out the show on the hour. And that'll give everyone an opportunity to listen to what it sounds like to tap into these beautiful meditations that you recorded. And thank you so much again for being here with us today.
Yes. This one is from fearful to peaceful.
Day 17, meditation. From fearful to peaceful. Take a deep breath and exhale. Sink into the comfort of your chair and release anything negative that is on your mind. Prepare to receive insight about peace. I hear the words, peace be still, and I know it is possible to find inner peace. I go into the silence of meditation and feel a deep sense of calmness flow over me. Nothing can harm me because I am pure essence. The body may be injured, the mind may be wrong, and the heart rejected. But I am eternal.